Ladies and gentlemen, our referee has called a stop to this contest, declaring the winner by knockout and new MMA show!
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting episode of And New MMA Show. I am your host, Michael Hansen. I do all kinds of mystifying things with microphones. Chief among them, I am a professional ring announcer and MMA cage announcer. And I am joined, as I always am, by my two friends. First up, on the left side of your screen, joining us from New York, Mark Priaulx. Mark, what's going on, man?
What up? I'm a little sad. I said last week when we made our picks that one of us was going to go 0-2. That person was me. But I'm putting on a brave face, and I'm here nonetheless.
All right. And on the right side of your screens, joining us from Florida, Omar Artola. What's going on, man?
You know, fresh cut thanks to the wife. Told her to give me a Michael Hansen, so this is what she came up with.
Hey, man, I was going to say, you look good. You look real good.
New man over there.
We, my wife and I just started with the nanny this week.
Very nice.
So
I commend you for holding that kind of trust in a person.
Yeah. So my days are getting a little more productive right now, but my wallet is feeling a little lighter.
I'm jealous.
Yeah. So this week, boys, let's run down the show real quick. We're going to start, as we always do, with the name on the marquee. Then we're going to touch on other noteworthy performances from this past weekend's fights. Then we're going to hop into our Priaulx rankings. And then we're going to look ahead into this weekend's UFC Fight Night, Brunson versus Till. And then we're going to finish up by going inside the MMA sphere. So let's start with our first segment on the marquee. But first, please like this video, share this video, and subscribe to this channel if you are liking our content. If you're listening to this on any podcast app, go ahead and subscribe there so that you never miss an episode. And find us, of course, on social media at @andnew_MMA show on all the socials. So let's jump into On the Marquee, guys. This week on the marquee is Giga Chikadze. Giga, the Ninja Chikadze, I believe is his nickname, who this past Saturday night at UFC Fight Night, Barboza versus Chikadze, defeated Edson Barboza via TKO at 1 minute and 44 seconds of round number 3. Mark, let me start with you. What were your thoughts on this performance by the Ninja Chikadze?
Giga is so good.
He's so for real.
So good. I will never doubt this man again. I mean, not like I was doubting him. I was maybe unsure of his provenness, but holy God, that man is scary. He's one of the most natural strikers I have ever seen. I mean, he's so relaxed, and he goes from standing still to you hear the impact of a strike landing before your brain can even realize it was thrown. Like it is crazy how fast this man delivers strikes from such a relaxed stance. Mm-hmm. It's like you just hit a button and it's automatic. But yeah, I mean, you can't be much more impressive than he was against Edson Barboza. That was a star-making performance if there ever was one.
Omar, what were your thoughts on the Georgian's finish over the legend Barboza?
I mean, he was a beast. You know, one of the things I was concerned about when it came to Barboza was we've seen him hurt, we've seen him vulnerable. And you know, when he got hurt, a lot of those things came out, and you could kind of see that he was starting to shell up and that he was hurt, and he's super visible when he's like that. And the fact that, you know, Giga's gotten to a point now where that finishing instinct is like secondhand at this point, right? Like he doesn't need anything more than just one little twitch on your face and he's coming for that head of yours. And I think it was perfect. The finishing instinct was perfect. Got in there, closed the show. Finishing Barboza, you know, while Barboza's had his losses at this point, finishing Barboza is still not an easy task by any stretch of the imagination. Mm-hmm. Fantastic,
especially with strikes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And I told you guys there's gonna be a lot of kicks. It basically ended by punches, but it was a kicking show, man.
That's what I was gonna say. How crazy is it that the guy who punches are like secondary for, actually the entire finishing sequence from the
Yeah.
setup to the first knockdown to the follow-up to the actual everything, all of it was punches. That's a pretty impressive statement from Giga.
He kind of reminds me a little bit of Wonderboy Thompson in that his opponents are anticipating his kicks so much that his hands almost like it's a bonus to his speed or quickness in a way, because his opponents are not anticipating him to throw punches.
I agree. And not only that, but that same speed, his speed of strikes that we're both referencing, is almost like a defense, because you could tell that Edson was a little tentative about when to go, about when to let things go, which you never see from Edson because he's so confident as a striker. But you could tell he was a little more, there was kind of like start and stops where I think it was that he was so nervous of getting in range, how quick the strikes were coming back at him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So guys, where does Edson Barboza go from here? The guy is a legend. He will always have one of the most legendary knockout finishes in UFC history that will be played on highlight reels, ad infinitum. But where does he go from here in this division?
Mark, I think he's okay. I don't think he falls really. He is what he is. He's proven. I think that featherweight, we kind of know who's at the top, but that bottom half of the top 10 is kind of still murky, needs to be figured out. So I think you could throw him in with any of those guys, and it's a banger. You give him Calvin Kattar, banger. You give him Josh Emmett, banger. You could even run it back with Dan Ige, since a lot of people thought Barboza won that the first time. You can go any of those ways with him, but I think he stays right there. I think he gets probably another top 10 opponent.
Mark, let me stay right here with you. At featherweight, Giga, with this performance, he has I think he's really has arrived if he hasn't yet. So where do you see him going? And also, how far do you see him going at featherweight?
So going into this fight, I really wanted to see Edson fight Max. As you guys know, I kept talking about how much I would love that fight. Now I want to see Giga fight Max. I've replaced it. Only problem is Max and Yair are already booked in November. You could obviously make Giga the backup for that fight, since Yair, you never know if he's going to even make it to fight day. So that's an option. But if that fight is going to happen, and obviously Volk and Ortega is happening, there's not really a ton of options left at the top of featherweight, because Zabit doesn't even really exist anymore. Who even knows? So I feel like there's only one other name, and I don't know if I love it, which is Chan Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie. I mean, it's a cool fight for sure. Part of me feels like, hey, it's the type of test that Giga hasn't had yet. So why not give it to him? Show that he can beat a wrestler or a grappler, which would then kind of be my same point in your other question of how far he can go. I'm inclined to say, especially after a performance like we just watched, that he can be a champion. And as we know in the UFC, a lot of getting to that title shot or winning the belt can be matchup based. If you avoid the right guy, you can get there, even though that guy may have been able to beat you and so on. So if he fights the right guys, he could definitely get there. But there is the question still, because he has kind of gone from fighting nobodies to Cub to Edson to now he's top 5, that we don't know what happens when he fights a very strong wrestler or even grappler in general, submission art. We haven't really seen that. So that's a test that he would still have to pass. But my answer is yes, I do think he could be champ if things break correctly. And maybe you go with the zombie fight, because he could show you that he could pass that test if he could get that done.
Omar, at 145 pounds, when Giga Chikadze is on one side of the ticket, who is your sort of dream matchup for him right now inside of the featherweight top 10 or top 5?
Yeah, I would have to agree with Mark. I think Max Holloway kind of presents the most interesting challenge. That's a banger all day. That probably would go 5 rounds too, to be honest. I don't even think that they would be able to finish each other. That would just be a back and forth 25 minutes of straight up mayhem. And I think it would be fantastic. Realistically though, Giga has already talked about how he wants to be the backup now for Ortega and Volk coming up in October. And so if that happens, he might be able to kind of, jump the line in that situation and put himself square in the title seat before we even realize it.
Yeah. Well, I cannot wait for Giga's next opponent. So for now, though, congrats to Giga Chikadze for his week on the marquee. So, gentlemen, last weekend, another huge fight happened in the combat sports world. It was not a UFC fight. Omar's already rubbing his eyes. It was not Bellator. It was not PFL or any other big name MMA promotion. It happened in the boxing world. And it featured one Mr. Jake Paul taking on one Mr. Tyron Woodley. If you haven't seen it already, spoiler alerts, but Jake Paul defeated the former UFC welterweight champion Tyron Woodley by split decision. Many people had Jake Paul by unanimous decision on their own scorecards. Let's get into this. The fight happened on Showtime Boxing, by the way, if you didn't know. It was a huge event. Omar, let me start with you. I feel like you have strong feelings about this. Maybe not even about the fight itself, but sort of about the fight, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. First, because of my own internal sanity, I do want to make sure that we point out that card included a lot of decent fighters, real professional boxers, one of which was Amanda Serrano, who is a Puerto Rican queen in the boxing ring. This woman beat this girl's face. Her name is Yamilith Mercado. She's a Mexican boxer. Beat this girl to hell. That girl's whole face was torn up by the end of that fight. This girl has knockouts galore in her career.
She's
41, 1-1.
Yeah.
She just basically took all the titles that they have, WBC, WBO, and IBO featherweight titles. She's an animal. That was the headliner, the co-headliner. And I think that she deserves for people to know her name. Another Amanda at the top of her weight class. So
that's true. I didn't put that together.
Amanda Serrano.
Omar, help me. I'm blanking on the name, but she's asking to fight. Is it Katie Taylor? Is that her name?
I do not remember that.
Sorry, I thought she's like the top women's British boxer right now. I want to say that's her name. I could be saying it wrong, but that sounds like it could be a major fight that is possibly on the horizon for her.
Well, I will be watching Amanda.
That's a real fight and not a clown fight like
Indeed.
These other ones.
Indeed. So that's a way to clear my soul here. Good on Amanda Serrano. That was a hell of a fight too, though, for real. All right. So this nonsense here. So I will give Jake Paul his credit where credit is due. The kid is a marketing machine. He can probably run a college course on how to market. Yes. Like by far. He knows how to sell. He knows how to market himself. He knows how to build things. The reality is that fight was anything but a real fight. That seemed like the biggest joke ever. Watching him box and watching Tyron Woodley not was like the most asinine thing I've ever seen. And what was even crazier was Jake Paul ended up landing overhand rights clean on Woodley's face, and Woodley still did nothing. It was so crazy. It made me want to slap Woodley in the face, and I wouldn't have even been terrified at that point because I don't think he would have hit me back.
Are you more frustrated with Woodley or sad for Woodley? I'm sad for Woodley. I feel
that's a great question, actually. I guess
I think I'm more frustrated with Woodley.
I think if we're being fair, I put a certain amount of pressure in my head for him where he was supposed to end this bullshit. Yeah. I was looking for him to sleep Jake Paul so that we could all end this nonsense. We could move on and go back to proper boxing. It's kind of where my head was at.
Dude, we're not going back. We're not going back to proper boxing anytime soon. I hate to break it to you.
If anything, he legitimized Jake Paul.
Yeah.
And you think so? Oh God.
Yeah. How could you not? He looked terrible.
Not legitimize Jake Paul in the real world of boxing, but legitimize Jake Paul as someone who can fight.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, he stood in there with Tyron Woodley and he didn't get knocked out. He got hit a few times. He was able to take him on the chin. I give him credit for that for sure.
He got rocked pretty good in the fourth.
He definitely did. He got hit really hard. And the problem with that fourth round was Woodley hits him once, almost throws him through the ring, basically. And then
he wants to do this.
It was reminiscent. It was very when that happened, the moment it happened, it was very reminiscent to me of Nathan Diaz versus Leon Edwards.
Yeah.
In the fifth round, Nate finally rocks Leon, and then he just walks towards him. He points at him. He laughs. It's like, Nate, go. Like he's wobbling on his feet. And the same thing happened here. Woodley, I feel like he could have swarmed him, maybe actually like gotten a real knockdown where the ref had to at least give him a standing gate count or something like that. But he walks towards him. He's doing this. It's like
the real problem is I don't even know because watching a lot of those replays back, especially in slow motion, Woodley didn't even know where the range was. This dude didn't even know how to hit him. He kept crashing into him to the point where his hands weren't even extended all the way. Yeah. It was the worst display of boxing on both sides that a headliner I think has ever seen.
Woodley
I know people like it. People are entertained by this shit. I can't, man. I can't do it.
Well, Woodley can't jab, and he never could. So him finding range in a boxing match without a jab is a little bit of a difficult task.
Jesus. At what point, though, do you tell yourself just wing the right then? Because there's no way he thought he would. Could you really think you were winning? You can't win the fight by not throwing punches. You can't be mad that Jake Paul won because he was literally doing something when you were doing nothing.
Especially when this has been an ongoing problem for you, which is why my answer to Mike's question is that I'm more frustrated with Woodley, because as MMA fans, obviously we know Tyron Woodley. Like when this fight got booked, again, I was torn even as the day came who was going to win. I bet Woodley, but I only did it because he was at plus 180. And I was like, all right, how do I not bet Woodley plus 180? But like gun to my head for my life, I'm not sure who I would have actually picked in that fight. I was still torn. But as MMA fans, the reason we were torn, as much as he's Tyron Woodley, 5-time UFC welterweight champion, is because we know what his weakness is, which is his refusal to throw punches. And when you are in a boxing match where the only thing that occurs to garner points is throwing punches, and you refuse to throw punches, it's not exactly the greatest scenario. So that's why I was so concerned. Obviously, like I said, it's Tyron Woodley. He's fighting Jake Paul. He's not a real fighter. So part of your brain wants to say, of course he's going to beat him. But the reason I'm so frustrated is because Tyron Woodley was talking himself up big time. I listened to an interview with Ariel on the MMA Hour. Like, I'm plugging other podcasts on our show now. I think people might know that one already. But talked to him for half an hour, and it was one of the best promos I've ever heard in my life. Like I left, they hung up with each other, and I was like, Tyron Woodley would win the UFC heavyweight title right now. He would win it was the most convincing, like the way he talked himself up.
For sure.
And then he goes in there. Yeah. He's telling you how he's going to kill the guy. He's going to separate him from consciousness. Wait till you see this training video I'm going to release. People are going to be amazed at what my training has been. Get in now because the odds are going to plummet down as soon as this video comes out. Just so much, again and again and again, for him to get in the ring and do the same shit that he's been doing. It's like I'm not sad for the guy because I'm too frustrated to be sad. Like, I don't know how you can get in there and just do the same shit again.
Against
he's broken. It's what it is. He's broken.
Against a nobody. Let's be real. Like Jake Paul is nobody in the scene of fighting. And this is straight up madness. It's
Yeah.
straight up madness. Like I don't know what is happening.
I guess you could say that because Jake Paul's a nobody, and we do know that he at least has knockout power enough to knock out a Ben Askren, who has proven to have a good chin over the course of his career, that maybe there is that fear of like, holy shit, I have to be careful so I don't get knocked out by a nobody on live television with 1 zillion people watching. So I get that, but like still, you know how to take a punch. You've been in wars. Like, trust yourself that you can step in and deliver your own shots so you don't walk out of there with an L like he did. So it's frustrating. But I will say, as Omar said, Jake Paul, first of all, a lot of people, I mean, I guess now that he beat Woodley, that kind of talk is going to stop. But a lot of these people think, like pre-fight saying, Jake Paul is trash. Jake Paul can't do it. Like, Jake Paul would beat the shit out of you. Mm-hmm. So, unless there's like professional fighters watching this podcast, like that man can box. It's obvious. It's obvious when you watch him. He can box. I'm not saying he can box on a level of like fucking Canelo, but the man can box. Like he knows what he's doing in there. And as Omar said, he is incredible at building the brand that is Jake Paul. Whoever his handlers are, his team, I'm sure a lot of it is he himself. He's unbelievable. I mean, the way that he's built himself up, this road that he's taken, and we know there's a limit if he moves too quickly. We thought maybe this was going to be it. Now they're saying he might fight Tommy Fury, which sounds to me like the more correct next step. But I was hearing some things like after the fight, like where he's throwing around like Jorge Masvidal's name. Like, I'm telling you right now, that is the end. Like, if he fights Jorge Masvidal, that shit is going badly for Jake Paul. Like, there's just so people know, like, maybe who are more maybe boxing people tuning in or whatever. Like, if he fights someone like Jorge Masvidal, that is the end of this. So, for his sake, I hope we go with the Tommy Fury route.
Because Masvidal, just to piggyback off that, Masvidal may not have the pure athleticism and power that a Tyron Woodley has, but Masvidal is not Tyron Woodley. Masvidal is a fighter, and Masvidal is going to go in there and reach back into his backyard brawl days with Kimbo Slice, and he's going to fight him.
Which is why you'll never see that fight.
Agree.
Really?
I never see that fight.
I think the name is being thrown out simply for the buzz of it, but I agree. Jake Paul would be dumb to do that, is what I'm saying.
They're handpicking people, and they know what they're doing. And there is a bit of, I can almost appreciate the strategy to a certain extent, even though I hate cherry picking. I think it's the biggest bitch thing to do. But
even though, I'm sorry to cut you off, you don't think he's going to fight Masvidal because he's going to enjoy, I think, an even bigger size advantage over Masvidal. Masvidal is a guy who's fought at lightweight in the UFC, and I don't think Masvidal's walk-around weight even comes close to 190. Personally,
I do.
You think so? 190?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I do. 100%. I definitely think, especially if he doesn't have to worry about cutting down to 170, 100%. He can 100% make sure that he's up there, definitely at least at 190, without being fat, too.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Masvidal's 2 inches taller than Woodley, and they have the same reach.
Okay.
So fact of that, I do agree that he's skinny, and I'll tell you what, Jake Paul looked big in there.
He's a big guy.
Especially
he's 6'1".
He walks around like 200
behind
pounds.
Jake Paul, that man, like he looked like a big dude.
He's not a small guy. That's part of.
No, yeah, it's part of what he's doing.
Yeah,
exactly.
Picking smaller opponents. I agree.
He picks older, smaller opponents than him, who themselves have never been pure boxers. And this is a guy who, just to recap for the audience, if anybody out there doesn't really know who Jake Paul is. So Jake Paul, and I don't really know either, to be quite honest, because I'm letting my what would you call it? Like, I'm a middle millennial. I'm letting my middle millennial show because I'm like a good decade older than this guy. Jake Paul, I believe, started out achieving notoriety as a Disney actor. He was on like some kind of Disney teen show.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know what he was on, but you're right.
He spun that platform into his own YouTube channel. He and his older brother Logan both became YouTubers both of them just became famous by just making stupid videos on YouTube, I think.
Yeah, so he actually started on YouTube and then went to Disney because of his YouTube stuff. Yeah.
And also on YouTube, I'm pretty sure like he got really famous because a lot of his videos, he just did like reckless stuff, stupid stuff. He put his friends in danger at certain times.
Yeah.
His brother was the same way. His brother had the same YouTube. I mean, his brother ended up in the news because of the whole. He went into the suicide forests of Japan and was like making light of the fact that there are literal people hanging from the trees committing suicide. Do you know about this, Mark?
No, I don't.
Oh, really? This was huge.
Yeah. So just real quick, in Japan, they have a forest basically.
I know the forest. Yeah.
Yeah. So him and his friends were in Japan. They thought it'd be funny to go into the forest and see if it was real. And they found real dead people that had just basically died and were filming it like if it was a big game, and it was not taken well.
Yeah.
I will say I do find, I mean, and maybe Jake Paul has done the same type of ridiculous shit for all I know. I don't know what these dudes do on YouTube, but I do find Jake Paul easier to like than Logan Paul. Logan Paul
really?
does the shit out of me.
I feel the exact opposite.
Really?
I just feel like Jake, he just has this like permanent like shitty grin glued
That's
to
how I
his
feel
face.
about Logan. That's
oh,
funny.
really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I also think
I don't
Jake
like
is a better
either.
boxer.
I feel like Jake truly is like, I don't know if it's real or if he's kind of putting it on, but he just seems like he kind of has a little bit of a craziness to him.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
So just again, recapping real quick, Jake Paul with his victory over Tyron Woodley now improves his professional boxing record to 4-0. But he started out, his first bout was against another YouTuber, a guy named Anderson Gibb, I think, who was a YouTuber or gamer. TKO'd him in the first round. Then he fought retired and 5'8" NBA player Nate Robinson, knocked him out in the second round. Then he fought retired and overweight Ben Askren, knocked him out in the first round. And then he moved up a level to not really retired, but recently released Tyron Woodley and got the decision win over him. So every time he faces a new opponent, he kind of like, he goes up a level, and the same questions keep applying. Now, this is a young guy, I think he's only 24, who has millions of dollars. And he's been training boxing probably every day for a few years now. And he's 24, he's 6'1", he's got a good frame. He's got an athletic kid. So yeah, he's probably going to be bringing some competency into the ring with him, fighting these older, less, not as good in shape, Tyron Woodley being the exception. Guys who are not boxers.
Bottom line is you can't ignore him now. You could have until now. You can't brush him aside after he beat Tyron Woodley. That's the level he's reached.
The only thing that just, I guess, irritates me is that even talking about all this and being forced to think about all this with the Paul brothers is there's like a dissonance to it, because the degree to which these fights are promoted and the degree of the spectacle of it all is so like not in step with the level of boxing that we're watching.
Oh, for sure.
They're just, like, it's just an amateur, like it should just be an amateur bout.
The Giga versus Edson fight.
Oh my God.
Is literally 1 million times better than this fight. And probably, I don't even know what, like 1/20th the amount of people watched it. I couldn't even tell you.
It's just so dissonant to me. It's just so weird.
That's what they do, man. That's credit to Jake Paul, I guess. But on that note, it's enough of this dude. At least for me.
Can we just send like Yoel Romero in there or something? Can the MMA community be like, okay, if you're going to keep fighting MMA fighters, let's vote on which one he has to go fight.
Honestly, if he wants to payday, fight Canelo. I'm fine with that. Let Canelo kill you. I'm fine with that.
Oh yeah, Canelo.
There's no way Canelo walks in that ring and lets that boy live. No way.
He would hurt him.
No way. That man is not only is he at this point probably the best boxer currently fighting, but the man's Mexican. He's not gonna let him live. He just won't.
What's interesting is that he has now fought 2 MMA stars. If Jake Paul fought somebody who lost on the Contender Series, he would get murdered in MMA. I mean,
oh yeah, for sure.
And also,
100%.
if he fought an amateur boxer or like someone who with pro boxing aspirations, he would similarly get murked. So unless you guys have anything to say on this more, we can put a pin in this one and move on.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
Same.
So turning our attention back to Saturday night's UFC Fight Night, Giga versus Barboza versus Chikadze. Another fight of consequence happened this time in the welterweight division, and Daniel Rodriguez got the unanimous decision victory over Kevin Lee. So, Mark, let me go back to you. What was your reaction of D-Rod getting the biggest win of his career over a pretty big name in Kevin Lee?
Firstly, I'm happy to be back in MMA.
Yeah. This is a new MMA show, after all.
My first takeaway here, unfortunately, is that Kevin Lee is not a welterweight. He looked small. I thought after all that time off and all the conversations I've heard from him about how he can't make his body try to make 155 anymore, it was too dangerous. He was almost dying at one point. I kind of thought that we were going to see a larger looking Kevin Lee. And to me, we didn't. He had the exact same frame that he's always had, I thought. And he looked small from the second the fight started. He looked small. Every time they clashed, he felt small to me. So I'm not entirely sure how this welterweight run is going to go. I get, according to him, he really can't make lightweight. He's one of these guys that would really benefit from a tweener division, but he's going to have a tough go against some of these bigger dudes, especially as a wrestler. You know, you're a striker. It's one thing if you're smaller against bigger dudes. When you're a wrestler, you're going to have problems.
Yeah.
And that's where he's at. With that said, he did look good enough in the first half of the fight. Mm-hmm. He even took the back in round 2. And for a second, I was like, oh, my round 2 rear naked choke prediction is about to come true. Because when he gets the back, it's usually deadly. But it was such a sloppy back take. He lost it in 1 second. D-Rob slid right out. And that was basically the last good moment Kevin Lee had all fight. He still seems to tire and slow as the fight goes on. And he still gets caught standing still all the time. All the time. He doesn't have a great sense of range. He steps in and he thinks while he's in there. It's like he tries to decide what he wants to do and forgets that he's standing directly in range. There's no in and out with him. He hangs out in his space, constantly gets cracked in there. And it was just disappointing overall. Obviously, you know, Kevin Lee's the bigger star. He's more of the talking point here, but I also want to say Daniel Rodriguez did exactly what he had to do. Mm-hmm. Great win for him. You know, it's not like he got to show out necessarily, but he did exactly what he had to do to legitimize himself in the welterweight division now, and now he's a name to watch.
Omar, with this victory, D-Rod now improves his winning streak to 3 victories in a row and his overall record to 16-2 as a professional mixed martial artist. So what did you make of this great win over Kevin Lee?
Yeah, I mean, this was kind of what I expected. I think when we talked last week about this fight, you know, as good as Kevin Lee is, Daniel Rodriguez is not somebody that you're going to, you know, take down very easily. That's a big boy. And I think I knew going into that fight that Kevin Lee didn't present the same striking threats that Daniel Rodriguez is going to present to him, especially having a size advantage over him. So not really surprised at how this fight went. I was a little disappointed to see, like Mark said, that just Kevin seems to still have the same issues over and over again. And I don't know if it's that they haven't been addressed at all or if they're much deeper issues. I know he looked like he was blowing his whole shit out in the first round, trying to get Daniel to the ground. And I think that that's part of the problem, right? It's like his ability not to be able to gauge how he's going to be using his energy. He doesn't really have a really efficient way of using his energy because of how much bigger Daniel is. He's got to force a lot of that movement. I don't, you know, when you talk about what's next for him, it's for Daniel anyway. When you talk about what's next for him, you definitely need to look, I think, at the top 15 at this point. You know, I think the UFC now has him ranked at 15. I think, Mark, you said you had him 18,
I think 17 I have him at.
17.
So yeah, almost same as UFC.
Yeah. So I mean, at this point, I definitely would think that
17.
you'd want to give him at least somebody in 10 and under, at least. Maybe somebody. I mean, I don't know. Does Ponzinibbio have a fight lined up?
It's a good question. I'm not sure if he does.
I mean, that's a straight up banger right there. I'd be down for that.
I kind of feel like he does in my brain. Let's see. I got it right here.
But I would also be good for.
No, it says he doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
would be
that's
great.
a banger. I agree.
Sean Brady would also be
That's
a
what I was
great
going to
matchup.
say. Just put him right into the Kevin Lee spot. Let him fight Brady.
And to be honest, Li Jingliang would also be a fantastic little fight. I'd be down for that one too.
Well, he's fighting Chimaev.
Okay. Yes.
But yeah, all those work. I was even going to say if you want to really push him, which I agree, he should probably be where you're saying. But for some reason, my brain likes this fight. I kind of would love to see how he matches up with Neil Magny. So I don't hate that either. But I think that's probably a little too further than he's going to go here. Neil
Magny, the ultimate litmus test of a fighter.
I also honestly don't know, so Kevin Lee being in the UFC still at this point makes me concerned that he's going to screw his record up.
Dude, he might not.
He already is. Dude,
did you hear Dana after the fight?
But that's the thing. We don't really know what's going to happen. He said he might be here. He might not be here.
That's what Dana said.
Yeah, I was surprised.
I'm
For a guy to have a year and a half layoff with 2 knee surgeries and lose once, and you to say that, I feel like you would give him a little window.
It's not that he's lost once. It's that, just looking at his record real quick, he got his record. He shot his record up as a pro to 16-2, and then he fought Tony Ferguson, and he got beat bad by Tony, which was for the interim strap at lightweight. But he's now dropped 2 straight, and he's lost 5 of his last 7 fights.
Right.
So as of late, since 2017 and that loss to Tony, there's a lot of L's, more L's than W's in this record right now.
And I think what speaks more about the L's though is the way he's been taking them. I mean, he's been getting his ass beat. I mean, these are bad losses. These are not, close competitive fights that we didn't know where they were gonna. He's been getting messed up.
The two wins in there, he beat Edson by TKO in a back-and-forth fight. Frustrating fight, and he looked really good against Gregor.
Yeah, and he's not losing to anyone who's not a big name until maybe now you could say Rodriguez, but maybe he's even better than we realize at this point.
Of course, because
you could argue he's undefeated. His only loss, or undefeated in the UFC, I should say, his only UFC loss was the split decision to Dalby, which a lot of people thought Rodriguez won. So you could even argue that he's undefeated right now in the UFC.
Yeah,
but the Lee one, I have a hard time saying see you later, Kevin Lee, when we do know he has skills and he's beaten top level guys, and he's coming back from who has a knee surgery and then another knee surgery. Not many guys comes back, new weight class, short notice opponent. He was training for Brady the whole time. It's a lot for me to say, okay, no more chances, Kevin Lee. I gotta give him one more. And I have a name that I was actually thinking about that I would love. I don't know where he's been or what he's doing, but if Gunnar Nelson is still alive, that would be a dope fight. And I would like to see that one.
Where is Gunnar Nelson?
I don't know.
Well, he's certainly not ranked.
I even tried to look it up because I was thinking about it earlier today when I was thinking about Lee. I couldn't find anything. I don't know why the man is not fighting. I don't know what his deal is, but that'd be a cool matchup if it was possible.
I wonder if COVID's got him messed up. He's I'm not going nowhere right now.
Speaking of matchups now, Daniel Rodriguez, as we're saying, this is the biggest win of his professional career. Mark, at welterweight, with this big win, where do you see D-Rod matching up next?
I think Omar nailed it before. I think that window that he said of Brady or Pons, somebody right in that area works really well. That's my guess. One of those guys in there.
It's going to be a handful for anybody.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this UFC Fight Night was also home to the tough finales. The new return of The Ultimate Fighter. We saw 2, not 1, but 2 tough finale fights on the main card. So let's recap those now. So In the co-main event, Bryan Battle got a second round submission victory over Gilbert. How do you say it? Urbina? Am I saying that right? Urbina. To win tough at middleweight. Let's start with that one. Omar, what did you make of that big win, getting the sub, getting the finish? How do you think of Urbina?
I thought he looked great, man. Battle. I thought Battle looked great. Urbina looked good though. I mean,
yeah.
I think going into the fight, both of the tough fights were fantastic. The whole season was probably one of my more enjoyable seasons that I remember watching in recent memory. And Bryan, these finales felt like these were the proper finales to have happened. I know that Gilbert was a replacement.
Yeah.
Trayshawn's going to get his shot, but there was just something that just when we got in there, especially with the way the fight went, I just wasn't mad that Urbina was in there. You know what I mean? Urbina put it on him. Battle, that was a fight. That first round was a fight. And when they got to the second round, Battle, I think he just told himself, I'm not losing, man. I'm not going to lose this fight. Came back, choked out Urbina, and it was a great performance, but it was a performance, frankly, of pure will.
Yeah.
And it was great.
It was a scrap. Mark, what were your thoughts on Bryan Battle? Excuse me for misspeaking before. Bryan Battle earning his UFC contract.
Yeah, on the Gilbert note, I was just going to say, I think it was Bisping that might have said it about how Gilbert took the fight on short notice and came out like guns blazing out the gate. And he was saying maybe it's because he knew his cardio wasn't necessarily there on the short notice. So that maybe that was accurate because, man, Urbina absolutely went for it. I don't think Battle was ready for that out of the gate, but to his credit, he recovered. He eventually got it to the grappling, which is where he is strong, and got it done. I cannot believe how long that man fought without a mouthpiece. It was like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, man, they said it on the broadcast too, but never fight with a clear mouthpiece again because no one had any idea it was out. I don't know how he doesn't say like, hey, let me get that. But that was and he took some shots. He took some elbows. Like, that was dangerous. But yeah, man, he got it done. He is a really powerful grappler. I'm just not sure how his full game translates. Like, he kind of looks sloppy and awkward on the feet, but we've seen that out of tough guys before, and then they've been able to level up. So we'll see. But I'm not sure that he's like a huge threat despite being the tough winner.
Being the tough winner, Mark. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say he reminds me of Forrest Griffin with the way he fights.
Really?
Like, just he's very awkward on his feet, and he's nothing like super special as far as like his striking ability.
His striking is way less impactful than Forrest's.
But even Forrest towards the end though wasn't really like getting super crazy. He was a very active guy, always like, moving around, doing his thing. But he always, I think, especially towards the end, Forrest Griffin relied a lot on his grappling. I mean, that's how he ended up choking up a lot of guys. And it just seemed like when I was watching Bryan fight, it just seemed like I just saw shades of Forrest Griffin and him wanting to take him down and coming out on top with this huge gash on his face from getting lit up in the first round. It was just kind of fantastic.
Yeah, we might have to agree to disagree on that one. I mean, Forrest coming right off a tough had the slobber knocker of the century with Stephan Bonner. If Bryan Battle was ever in a fight like that, he'd be dead.
I'm just talking about Forrest Griffin, and not even Forrest Griffin in the tough finale. He just reminded me of Forrest Griffin in that moment.
All right.
Okay. Well, congrats to Bryan Battle and the other tough finale from this past UFC Fight Night: Barboza versus Chikadze. Ricky Turcios, Pretty Ricky, getting the split decision win over Brian Hiestand to win his tough finale at bantamweight. This was a crazy fight, guys, and it only got crazier as it went on. Mark, let me start with you. Pretty Ricky, bantamweight.
What a friggin' fight from both guys.
Yeah.
Holy shit, what a fight. My goodness. The pace was insanity. They both went for it every single second that they were in that cage. Like, that is what you love to see from a tough finale, from guys who are debuting even in general. I mean, literally everything that exists in the world of MMA was in that fight. It all happened in that fight. I think it was Felder that compared Turcios to Tony Ferguson in that there's no space in the whole fight, no matter what position he's in, where he's not trying to hurt you and damage you, or at least throw strikes. And I thought that was super accurate. That's exactly how it felt watching him. But that fight was incredible. I mean, I agree that it was Hiestand round 2 and Turcios round 3. Round 1, I thought, I've watched it twice, was as close as a round can possibly be. Like, I'm totally fine with the split. I would have been fine with Brady winning. Round 1, I had razor close. Gun to my head, I think I may have even given it to Brady.
Really?
But I'm totally fine with Turcios winning. He was awesome. Ricky is going to be in a lot of fun fights. That guy is just nonstop action. And if he was able to work his way up the ladder somewhat at bantamweight, it would not surprise me at all. But I stand by my point from last week. If you remember, I said I thought Brady had the higher ceiling, even though I was picking Ricky just because I felt like Ricky was more ready right now. I still stand by that. I think Brady has a lot of raw skills and a lot of things that you can't teach that he already has in a 22-year-old. So there's a lot of positives in his corner already, and it wouldn't shock me to see him make some leaps as his career goes along.
I mean, Hiestand definitely was the bigger guy in there, definitely was the stronger guy in there, although his strength advantage, which he took advantage of more in the early moments of the first round. But as they got sweaty and slippery and Turcios was Turcios, man, it kind of negated that strength advantage of Hiestand, because even though he was getting takedowns, and especially in the first round, sort of at will, man, Turcios is just so scrappy. He just never stops moving. He never stops fighting. I mean, like you said, that Felder compared him to Tony Ferguson. He takes cardio. He took cardio to a different level where it wasn't even good cardio. It was just like he was in a flow state where no matter
that's how he is.
What was happening, he just kept moving and kept fighting, almost like he just wasn't thinking anymore. Like it was just in a flow state. But
He agrees. He's a super flowy fighter.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Omar, let me bring you in here. What did you make of Turcios getting his UFC contract?
I mean, Turcios fought exactly the way he fought on Tough in this finale. I mean, I think we talked about it again last week in this fight. Like, Hiestand is probably the more technical fighter, if you want to put it in a certain way. There was no way that Hiestand was going to be
Hiestand.
He fell. Hiestand, he fell. That's how we're going to remember it now. Thank you, Bisping. But there was no way he was going to be able to keep up that pace with Ricky. And unless he was going to finish Ricky within the first round, it was just going to get worse. And I knew that. That's literally been his whole thing throughout Tough. It was just outworking these guys and just not giving them any room to breathe. I think the one thing that I love about him, that was one of the things that we all loved about Tony, was when he does get taken down, there's never this look of dejection from him. You see a lot of guys that get taken down and they're like, God damn it, I'm on the ground again. This is bullshit. He's like, all right, I'm on the ground. I'll hit you on the ground. I don't give a shit. I'll hit you. You want to stand back up? You can stand back up. I'll fight you there too. He just doesn't care. He's just at all time trying to finish you from wherever, trying to damage you from wherever. That man, it reminded me of Diego Sanchez. He will probably always remind me of Diego Sanchez. He's a fun, lovable guy. He's out of his freaking mind, but in the best way. I am a huge fan of Ricky Turcios. I hope that we see good things from him. He's a very raw guy. I can't tell you that I expect him to be a champion right now. But, Moreno came out a very different fighter now than what he was when he was in Tough. So I'm hoping we see some growth. I'm hoping we see some development, because personality-wise, that man is a gem.
Yeah, he does seem like the new Diego in interest in the character that he is, man. And it does seem like kind of a weird serendipity that pretty much right on the heels of Diego's eventual exit from the UFC, the young Ricky Turcios steps in to sort of fill in his shoes. It's really interesting.
Universe is a beautiful thing.
It's funny that you mentioned Moreno, because right after the fight, I Googled Turcios Because in my head, I was like, man, a lot of times on Tough, guys will fight a weight above just to get onto the show. So I was like, tell me this dude is normally a flyweight, because I could see him like actually having legit success at flyweight, but he's not. He's bantamweight, where it's going to be a lot harder. So.
Well, you never know. These guys eventually go into the UFC, get real trainers, get a little bit of money.
Yeah, you never know.
They might find a way to properly cut weight where they weren't having the ability to do that before. We've seen it.
Yeah. So, Mark, will you do us the honor and just recap real quick some other fights, rest of the fights from this UFC Fight Night, Barboza versus Chikadze?
Absolutely. So we had the next fight down the card was also tough contestants who got a shot here. It was Andre Petrosky.
You got it.
Who was a lot of people's middleweight favorite on the show, who got knocked off. Came back here and got a third round TKO victory over Michael Gilmore, who was an odd choice to me to get a shot. He was actually a late replacement on the show who wasn't even on the cast originally, and then he came in after an injury. But I guess maybe he appealed to Dana for coming in on short notice and everything, so Dana gave him a shot. But Petrosky finished him here. He's a beast of a wrestler, as we know from the show. He looked good here, even though the competition may have been lacking, because I don't know quite what we should think of Gilmore. He had his same issues, though, which were his striking is really shaky and his cardio is kind of non-existent. But he does have a nice profile to build off with the wrestling and how strong he is. So maybe now that he's hit this level, someone can get with him and just work like straight striking and cardio. Because you watch him and you're like, man, there might be something here. But he has some glaring flaws that he's going to have to work through. Yeah. And he also needs help with his promos, because the Jeff Bezos line after that fight was one of the corniest things I've ever heard in my life. Moving on down. Gerald GM3 Mearshart. Second round rear naked choke over Mahmoud Muradov. Wow.
He looked good.
You cannot count that man out, man. Fighting as Gerald Mearshart must be such a crazy feeling. It's like you have to wade through like missiles without having any missiles of your own and just try to get through them without dying so that you can grab hold of someone. Like it's such a crazy way to fight. But as soon as he gets you to the ground, you are in tremendous trouble. And that's what it was here. He pushed his pace the whole time, took every shot he had to take until Muradov started to tire, and then took it to the ground. And it was academic after that. The dude is nasty on the ground.
God, that's such a scary way of fighting. Like that's not
advisable.
And not for longevity. Like that's only going to last until his chin can last. After a certain point, you're going to keep screwing yourself up until your body's just going to be like, well, fuck you too. And just like stop working. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I as much as I love Gerald
just go for it.
Mearshart.
GM3, stick with it.
GM3. Let's stick with GM3. As much as I love him and I love the way that he's able to grapple and he's a savage on the ground. If he has the opportunity to literally rip your arm off, he probably will. Love his savageness on the ground, but he's got to do something about the striking. He's got to find a better way to get to the grappling range, because that's not the longevity, the way to really make that career of his last. It's just not.
I will say that once he kind of got through the period where Muradov was super fresh and Muradov's speed came down a little bit, Mearshart did land a few bombs, which shocked me. So, I mean, he was in there slanging, but yeah, your point is still accurate nonetheless. He had to get rattled a few times to make that happen. Like his legs wobbled on him a few times.
Yeah.
Moving right along, we had Abdul Razak Al Hassan with a first round KO over Alessio Di Chirico. My God, what a KO. That was death. And it happened in about 7 seconds. I mean, I don't know what it actually was, but something around that. And he needed that bad. He was a guy who had kind of gotten himself like, maybe borderline top 20 at welterweight. He had beaten Nico Price, but then lost 2 in a row at welterweight to debuting fighters, moved up to middleweight, lost to another debuting fighter. So it was kind of a crazy slide out of nowhere for him. So he needed this one bad, and he certainly put a stamp on it. So good for him.
It might have been safer to just hit DeChirico with a bat. Honestly, it might have been actually safer to do so. So
Yeah,
that was as rough as knockouts come.
that was a brutal one. Then we had Wellington Turman win a super weird split decision over Sam Alvey. Turman won every round of the fight, but got docked 2 points in round 3 for 2 separate eye pokes after being warned like infinity times prior to round 3. So that was a wild one. You don't see a guy get docked 2 points very often, but he still had done enough to hold on. And frankly, it might be time for Sam Alvey to call it. The dude has not looked good in a while, but I'll touch on that when I get to the Priaulx rankings in a bit. Then we had Dustin Jacoby with a first round TKO over Darren Stewart. He looked awesome. Another nice finish for him. He's making a nice little run in his second UFC run. He was 0-2 in the promotion back in the day, then went to Glory, did some kickboxing, kind of built his name, certainly improved. And now he's back and he's 3-0 with a draw in a 4-fight run. So he's moving himself up the ladder. From there, we had JJ Aldrich with a unanimous decision over Vanessa Demopoulos. Not a ton to say on that one. Workmanlike from Aldrich. Then Pat Sabatini with a round 1 heel hook over Jamal Emmers that was nasty and tough to watch. Awesome comeback from him after he was in a little trouble early. But yeah, heel hooks are just fucking rough, man. My God, Emmers looked like he was dying in there.
Yeah.
Dude, a little trouble early might be the biggest understatement ever. Sabatini was losing every second of that fight from jump. There was nothing about that fight that was good for Sabatini when it started. And he got into this 50-50. Like, I bet you that kid is kicking himself in the head now, having put himself in that 50-50 position with him. But he puts himself in a 50-50 position, goes for a heel hook of his own, ends up with his heel on the other, or his knee on the other side of his leg, and just in one of the most disgusting finishes I've ever seen. I mean, that was, just thinking about it just makes me cringe. It's just
the toe hold that Emmers had looked bad too.
It did,
but I guess it's a toe hold, which is a significantly less painful move. But I guess that's what happened in his head, because instead of him being like, I need to get out of here, he was like, damn, I have this toe hold pretty twisted right now. Like, let me see what happens. And I think that's what ruined him.
Yeah.
It
was like a race.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But it's a race with a gun versus a knife. A toe hold, a guy can last through. A heel hook, once that shit gets locked in, you are broken.
Toast. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know at one point, at what point do you tell yourself, like, maybe I should switch it up? Switch up the submission, because he didn't have to keep going for the toe hold. He had control. He could have switched it possibly to a heel hook. He could have maybe rolled and switched it up to a knee bar potentially. My point is, at what point do you try something else when you know this isn't working? There was nothing else for you to do with that toe hold. That was as far as it was going to go. You weren't going to snap his foot in half.
Yeah.
So at what point do you let it go and be like, okay, we're done here. Like, let's try something else.
There are a few things.
I mean, it all happened pretty quick.
Yeah.
I mean, but did it though? They were on the ground. They were on the ground for a decent amount of time.
In the 50-50 position, how long do you think they were in the 50-50? 20 seconds?
Guess we can go back and watch it. I mean, I thought it.
I'm guessing. I
remember it being maybe like a minute.
No. Really?
I mean, that's again. I have to go back and watch it. But there seemed to be enough time where this dude was cranking on his toes for what seemed like forever, and it wasn't working. I remember looking at the fight and being like, dude, stop playing this game.
Yeah, man.
This is a bad game to play. If you haven't gotten it at this point, you're not going to get it.
I would rather be in any other submission than be on the receiving end of a heel hook, man. That looks just so gnarly.
And realize that the heel hook made the knee pop out. Like, how crazy is that? That wasn't a knee bar.
Okay. I'm glad I'm sitting down.
Oh.
All right.
I really hope Emmers gets. I hope he's okay, dude. Because that
for sure.
You could tell that Sabatini was a little bit rattled. I mean, maybe rattled's not the right word, but he was very concerned. Like, he didn't like that Emmers was writhing in pain down there. Like, he almost felt like he didn't want to do the interview. Like, he was uncomfortable to do the interview.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then just to close it out, the last fight, well, I should say the first fight on this card, the last fight I'm going to touch on here is Mana Martinez debuting, winning a split decision over Guido Canetti.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that one was kind of like just an emotional one, especially for Mana. He had missed weight. This is his first fight now since his head coach Saul Salisa passed away recently. It was as somebody who's a fan of Guido Canetti, it was just another frustrating performance to watch, just because Guido does a lot of waiting, a lot of going second. Mana looked okay. It wasn't really the best fight in the world. Hopefully we see something else from Mana down the line. I do think Guido is probably done at this point, though. I don't expect him to have another UFC fight.
Yeah. Well, boys, with that being said, let's put a bow on this one. Congratulations to all the winners from UFC Fight Night, Barboza versus Chikadze. Congrats once again to Giga Chikadze. Enjoy your week, Giga, on the marquee. And now, gentlemen, let's remind our listeners once again, guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, please, the best way to help us out for free, please like this video, share this video, subscribe to our channel, hit the bell so you never miss an episode. Copy and paste the URL of this YouTube video and send it to your cousin who is a casual. He will like it.
Yes, that is what I want. Tell people to check us out.
Of course, if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast app on your iPhone, go ahead and subscribe. And again, you will never miss an episode. And find us on social media at @&new_MMA show on all the socials. And now, guys, let's turn to our next segment. This is the Priaulx Rankings, Mark's own ranking system. Mark, tell us who rose and who fell on the heels of this past UFC Fight Night.
All right. Happy to be back after no UFC event for our prior show. So we're back with the Priaulx Rankings, and we have a few this week. We got 4 risers. The first of which is Giga Chikadze, from number 10 to number 5 at featherweight.
Ouch.
So that's a big one. I could not jump him personally over Yair. I think I saw, or it wasn't the UFC. I saw. Actually, have you guys seen where the UFC put it? 'Cause I haven't seen their rankings come out.
Oh my God.
Third.
3. Wow. Yeah. See, I can't do that. I can't.
You shot him up there.
So they put him over Yair and over Zombie too. Wow.
Zombies 4 on the UFC rankings.
Yeah. All right. I'm not there quite yet. So yeah, he's 5 for me. Daniel Rodriguez moving from 26 to 17 at welterweight, as we mentioned. Definitely putting himself in the mix, borderline ranked there. Abdul Razak Al Hassan, also, as we mentioned, I had him down at 38 in middleweight after that losing streak. Jumps back up to 28 now. It's a good win over DeCurico. And then Wellington Turman was down at 49 at middleweight. He hadn't done much of note. The win over Alvey, I have him jumping up to 36. Then we also have a couple fallers, which are Kevin Lee, as is expected. I did insert him high into the welterweight rankings. I had him at 13 coming up from lightweight. I have him down at 18 now. His resume still was enough for me to keep him there, but he's on the edge. And then the other was Sam Alvey, who was, I think, was he ranked at one point in his career at middleweight? I kind of want to say he had to be ranked at one point. He's been dropping like a stone. I had him down at 28. Now I have him down to 37 at middleweight. I think we might be at the end for Sam Alvey. The guy has more lives than a cat. He doesn't have a win in 7 fights, yet he still keeps getting fights. His last 7 fights are 4 losses, then a draw, and now 2 more losses. It's rough. The guy doesn't look the same in there. He already was a guy who didn't throw a lot of the time and was frustrating. Now he just kind of seems like he's in there watching fights. So not sure we're going to see Sam Alvey again in there, but who knows? And that is it for the rankings this week.
Thank you, Mark. And now let us turn towards the future, boys. This coming weekend, this coming Saturday night is UFC Fight Night. Brunson versus Till. Darren Till taking on Derek Brunson. Guys, let's get into this fight. Some big fight in the middleweight division in the UFC. Got Darren Till, number 6 at middleweight. Derek Brunson, number 7. Omar, let me start with you. What are your thoughts on this marquee matchup?
I'm still not necessarily sold on Derek Brunson. His inconsistency in which Derek Brunson is going to show up still never really gives me any confidence to think that he's going to win.
Mm-hmm.
Darren Till's a very dangerous guy. He's a big dude too.
Yeah.
I just think that he has slightly more tools, especially when it comes to the stand up. I think that if he's worked on, he's always been a difficult guy to take down. And I think that if he's continued to work on that, Derek Brunson is probably going to have a time trying to take him down. And I expect Darren Till to be the bigger guy in the octagon with him as well. So I think it's going to be an interesting fight. I do expect Darren Till to come out on top, and I kind of expect Darren Till to finish him, to be honest. I know Darren Till hasn't finished somebody in a minute, but I do expect him to finish him.
When's the last time Brunson got finished? By Adesanya.
Yeah.
Wow. Mark, what do you think? Brunson riding a 4-fight winning streak coming into this. Darren Till has bounced between welterweight back up to middleweight again. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
If Darren Till does not win this fight, I need to reevaluate how I pick fights, because I truly cannot imagine Darren Till losing this fight.
Really? Wow.
First of all, I already can't imagine that Derek Brunson has made it to 5 in the UFC rankings. If you asked me a couple years ago, would he ever be the 5th ranked middleweight in the world, I would have said no chance. So kudos to Derek Brunson. Super Saiyan blonde hair Derek Brunson has certainly made a nice run for himself. But with that being said, no, I don't see it. I don't know how. Again, it's not hate on Brunson. It's just that, to me, Till has such a wildly superior grasp of range. Like, if there's anything that you could say about Darren Till, if you want to pick the first quality I feel like that you say is, man, that guy has a hell of a grasp of range. He can dictate range so well. Then you have Derek Brunson, who has zero grasp of range. So I get it that his game is kind of to crash in with crazy hooks and to take you down. But my God, if he's going to have to get inside of Till and not get caught on the outside to win this fight, obviously he's going to have to work the wrestling. And I know he's been more patient lately and all that. But to me, Darren Till stuffs takedowns. He makes Brunson pay for entering range. Not saying, Brunson may get him down a time or two. I'm not going to say this. It's like a shutout, but I think he makes Brunson pay for entering range. I think he dictates the range far better, frustrates Brunson. And I will be bold here. It feels less bold after Omar already did it, but I think that Till may finally have the big performance that people have kind of been wanting out of him. And I will say that we get a KO first or second round. If I got to pick me, I'll say early second round KO for Darren Till.
Wow. Both you guys really confident in Till, making me second guess myself. I'm not that I'm super confident in Brunson, but Till has lost 3 of his last 4. He got submitted by Tyron. He got knocked out cold by Serghei. He beat Kelvin by split. And then he lost to Bobby Knuckles. So I have not been super confident until at middleweight. At welterweight, Till was a killer. That being said, I agree with you guys. I think skill for skill, the edge should go to Till. Brunson, especially as of late, he beat Shabazian. He beat Kevin Holland. Oh, God. I don't know. I think Till
he wrestled Kevin Holland.
Stick with what your gut was. Don't let us sway you.
I think skill for skill, Till on paper is better, but I think he's going to have a hard time finishing Brunson. I'm going to go Till by decision.
Oh, okay. None of us are riding with Brunson. I thought you were going to take Brunson here.
I was tempted.
That you bring up the size is an interesting point. That we've only seen Till fight twice at middleweight. One was obviously a loss to Whitaker, who's a former welterweight. Sure. The other was a win over Kelvin Gastelum, who should still be a welterweight.
Yes.
So It is interesting to think about the size and the wrestling that Brunson can present. And is it possible that he's too strong? Again, I would be fucking shocked. If I come in here next week and I have to say Darren Till lost this fight, I'm going to be so freaking disappointed in Darren Till. I really am. I know it feels excessive. He's not even a 2-1 favorite. He's minus 185. Brunson is plus 155. So I'm making it sound like we're talking about some blowout here, and we're not. I just feel like stylistically, there's no way Darren Till should lose this fight. So we shall see.
It also sounds like you're kind of low on Derek Brunson.
I've always been low on Derek Brunson until this run. This run has really impressed me. It's hard for me to be high on a guy whose striking was as disgustingly sloppy as his was.
Yeah.
It has been much better. He has fought more patient, and it has made his striking kind of fall more in line. Okay. He's also kind of figured out his whole game better, like the blend, how it works, how his wrestling can be more effective. He was very much like a crash and bang guy early on. So I give him a lot of credit. He's improved a lot. Styles make fights, and I don't see how this style clash works out in Brunson's favor. I was 0-2 last week, so who fucking knows? But granted, I picked both tough fights, right? Even the result. But I am putting the hammer on Darren Till this week. So if you want to trust me for any stupid reason, hammer.
And in the co-main event of this Saturday night's UFC Fight Night, Brunson versus Till, we have a heavyweight clash. Serghei Spivac versus the Brit, Tom Aspinall. Omar, let me start with you. These big boys, they're going to meet in the middle. What do you think about this fight between Spivac and Aspinall?
Yeah, I kind of like these guys. I like both of them. They're new, they're up and coming. I've kind of rooted for them both when they were kind of doing their own thing, and now I'm kind of torn right now as to who I want to pick here, because I feel like both of these guys were on the up and up here, and I feel like one of them losing at this point is kind of sucks.
Yeah,
for sure.
They're both on a 3-fight win streak in the UFC.
Yeah, I think if I had to choose, I guess I'd probably go with Tom Aspinall. I think I just prefer the way he fights overall. I think he's just a little bit more aggressive. But the reality is that this fight is literally a coin flip. Excited to watch it, but kind of sad that somebody's got to lose here.
Yeah, we have Aspinall, who's actually riding a 6-fight win streak as a pro. He's now 3-0 in the UFC, and he's coming off a submission victory over the heavyweight legend Andrei Arlovski. Also, Aspinall, 10 professional victories, all by KO or submission. Wow. Spivac also has a very impressive record so far as a heavyweight, 13-2 overall. He's 4-2 in the UFC, and he's also riding, like Mark said, a 3-fight win streak, and also coming off a victory over Andrei Arlovski, his coming by unanimous decision. So, Mark, let me go back to you on this. I really like Aspinall myself. I'm a big Aspinall fan right now. But what do you think about this fight with Aspinall and Spivac?
I like Aspinall a lot. I was hoping that he got a ranked opponent. Granted, he is ranked himself. I think the UFC has him at 13, which I did. I thought he was still just outside, but I looked earlier today. So I guess it makes sense that he got a ranked opponent, but I'm glad that he did. It was time. He's looked that good. Part of me feels like Aspinall may show out here. The other part of me is like, Spivac is kind of that guy who can make you look dumb sometimes if you look past him. So I don't want to be guilty of doing that. He's definitely strong and he's a really good grappler, but he is the smaller man here. It's on short notice, so I'm not sure what his conditioning will be in terms of being equipped to have a grinded out type fight, if that's the route he would need to go. So I think I'm gonna go heavy on Aspinall here, almost similarly to what I did with Till. He's a great grappler. He's been super slick. He's dynamic. He's faster. He's a much better athlete. I think he's way ahead on the feet. And I think that he wins this fight, any way it goes. If it goes to a decision, I think it's him. But I'm gonna say another round 1 finish here. I'm gonna say round 1 TKO for Tom Aspinall, and he makes a statement.
Love it. I love Aspinall. Omar, you made your pick, right?
Yes.
You picked this up.
Yeah. Well, I'll go with Aspinall by
Yeah.
knockout.
Yeah. I'm going to say Aspinall second round.
Knockout
KO.
or sub?
KO.
There we go. A lot of Aspinall KOs.
I'm gonna go first round and get
Okay.
crazy.
Okay.
That's what I did. I'm with you.
All right.
We're unanimous on Till and Aspinall this week. We like the Brits.
All right. So one other fight on this main card of UFC Fight Night, Brunson versus Till, has caught our attention and has the attention of the MMA world right now because it is the UFC debut of Paddy the Baddie Pimblett. What a name.
Great.
What a mouthful. Welcoming him to the UFC lightweight division is Luigi. I don't want to butcher his name.
Vendramini.
Vendramini. Thank you, Mark.
No problem.
Mark, let me start with you right here. Paddy the Baddie, man, making a much anticipated UFC debut. What do you think?
Yeah. So if you don't know Paddy the Baddie Pimblett, he is a massive star in the UK. He's coming from Cage Warriors, which is the same place that Conor McGregor came from and many others. Super legitimate promotion. He's a star in Cage Warriors. He's a star in all of the UK. He has a huge fan in Ariel Helwani, who's been behind him for years trying to get him to the UFC. He's finally making his debut here. To Pimblett's credit, what's interesting is that he has delayed this multiple times. I want to say this is the third time he had a chance to join the UFC because he didn't want to rush it. He wanted to have him feel like he wanted himself to feel like his game was in the right place, which I respect. So it's pretty cool to hear that. But he is a massive action fighter. He's dangerous everywhere. He gets the crowd. Again, it's probably not going to happen here because the crowd's not going to necessarily know him. So it might take a bit, but he gets the crowds so into his fights. His entrances are like super high energy. I don't quite understand where his stardom level necessarily came from because it seems like super oversized for what he is, but maybe I just don't follow him on social media. So like there's things that I'm missing. And even in interviews, he doesn't seem like he's like that captivating. Like a guy like Conor, to reference, since we're talking about Cage Warriors, when he first came, like his first interview with Ariel, I was like, holy shit, this guy's fucking awesome. Pimblett is like, oh, it's just a dude. So like, I don't know. He has this crazy star. I don't quite understand it. And I'm not even sure entirely that his fighting ability matches this big star that he has. But regardless, I do think that he will be good enough to beat Vendramini and start his career off with a win here. So it'll be interesting to see.
Omar, what do you make of Paddy the Baddie making his UFC entrance?
Yeah, I'm excited for him. I actually think he's super charismatic when it comes to him being in the cage. He's a wild man. Yeah. He's very different from Conor. I think that his star appeal personally is very similar to how Conor kind of came into the UFC, where, you know, there were people that knew who he was. He had been kind of talked about. Ariel almost did the same thing pretty much with Conor back in the day. You know, I do think that there's significant differences because I even thought Conor, the way that he fought back then, was like something to watch. Like you couldn't miss a Conor fight. Even if you didn't hear him speak, watching him fight was just a gift.
Yeah.
Back then. At the time. And I just think Paddy Pimblett kind of has that potential. Mm-hmm. I hope he rises to it. I think that he can be a very, very big name in the UFC if he plays his cards right. We've seen guys just like Sean O'Malley rise to the top of popularity without necessarily needing to rise to the top of the rankings. So it is a very big possibility that we could have the same thing here with Paddy, but he just needs to capitalize on the opportunity.
Yeah. Mark, just knowing what you know about Paddy Pimblett, how far do you see him going in the lightweight, which is one of the most stacked divisions, if not the most stacked division in the UFC?
Yeah, it's a tough division. I'm not going to pretend as if I've seen every Paddy Pimblett fight to break this down as much as I would like to. From what I've seen, again, I'm not. I mean, he's good. Don't get me wrong. Like, again, I think he'll beat Vendramini, but to my point, he's only minus 150 against Vendramini. It's not like he's some massive, you know, like layup star coming in getting his first win. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, the guy has skills. He also seems beatable to me. So I don't know. I could see him maybe falling in like that top 30, 40 range. You tell me he's going to be a top 20 lightweight. I'm not sure I see that.
Ever?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, damn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You think he's never going to break into top 10? It's just too much of a landmine of a minefield.
Everything shifts over time. So maybe, I don't know. I kind of want to stick with my top 20 take. I mean, maybe he gets in there, but yeah, top 10, I certainly don't see. Certainly don't see.
Wow.
And maybe I'm going to eat those words big time. And if I do,
Right.
everyone's going to know it because the guy's such a huge fucking star.
Oh.
But I don't know. At least from what I've seen thus far, I haven't seen it. Maybe I will see something on Saturday that makes me come in here next week and amend that statement.
Cue up the Michael Jordan I took that personally meme. Holy shit. Oh my God.
You think he's going to be a top 10 guy?
I mean, again, I think it's too early to see. I think his star power, if there's one thing we know about the UFC, is that if you have a little bit of star power, you're more likely to move up than not, right?
Get favorable
like
matchups
Connor.
and stuff. That's why I kind of hedged on my saying top 20, because if you are a star and you get the right matchups, maybe you could get there. But
yeah, I think one of the other things that's significantly different about him is that he's a grappler more than anything. You know, he's unlike Connor,
who finish fights anywhere.
Unlike Connor though, who was primarily trying to heel kick somebody or straight
blast somebody with their left hand.
Exactly. Unless he was doing that, he wasn't really doing that much of anything. He wasn't like he was trying to go for heel hooks and all this other nonsense. But Paddy is. Paddy's trying to get you down to the ground. He's trying to rip something off. So very different games when it comes to the actual fight itself. But I think the kid's talented. And again, once you start investing in these guys who are doing this professionally and having to also probably do other shit on the side because they're not making a ton of money. The crazy thing with Paddy is Paddy took a pay cut to go into the UFC.
Wow.
Paddy is making less money than what Cage Warriors was paying him.
What?
Go figure that one out.
Cage Warriors has that much money?
Or maybe the UFC is not paying him.
He was their number one guy right now, so I guess you could see.
I mean, bro, you could match it. The UFC could have matched it.
Yeah.
We're not even talking about giving him a raise or nothing. That's a bad look as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree.
Don't get overpaid. Don't get outpaid by the smaller promotion. Like that's a bad look.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. I'm ready to see Paddy, man. I've been excited to see his debut for a little bit, so I'm actually glad we're finally here.
I'm excited to see him. I just don't think he'll ever be ranked.
Well, with that being said, let's put a bow on this one, boys, and let us move on to our final segment of the show. This is Inside the MMA Sphere. Omar, take it away.
Oh, yeah. Welcome back, guys. Yeah, inside that MMA sphere.
I feel like we are in a totally different show now.
Dude, yeah.
All right, guys. So basically what we're gonna do today, we're gonna make little adjustments in how we season our MMA sphere. So we're gonna start off with a little bit of some more serious news, and then we're gonna get into some more fun news, and then we'll end on some fight announcements, and then we'll give you guys your week.
All right, let's hear it.
Cool.
What do you got?
So the first one is a little bit of a downer. There was a little bit of a loss in the MMA world. A veteran MMA fighter, Kyle Reyes, who may not have been large in the UFC world, but was definitely a very active fighter, came out of Extreme Couture, well known inside of the bubble that is the MMA world. Basically the reason why this was such a big deal was because of the circumstances that were surrounding it. Kyle went in for a torn bicep to get it repaired, ended up having a surgery. Everything seemed cool. Within 24 hours, this dude was basically deathly ill. Wow. Went back to the ER, and they found out he had an infection. The infection caused his lungs to collapse, and unfortunately your boy did not make it. So
Oh, man.
A lot of people at Extreme Couture are pretty broken up. The MMA world was kind of pouring out their support. You know, people like even Dan Ige were reaching out because he's trained with Kyle in the past. It was kind of a shock to see the how, for sure, because a torn bicep, especially in this line of work, seems very relatively routine. And I think it's kind of sad that he ended up paying the price for something that hopefully, you know, isn't a norm at this point. So sad to see, and you know, prayers to his family, but
yeah, man,
yeah,
for sure.
So that's our bit of sad news, and again, rest in peace to him.
All right, what else you got, bud?
So the next thing is Aljamain Sterling. Aljamain Sterling apparently seems to have a little acting gig.
Oh, this is
coming up. Apparently, he's going to be making his acting debut, his thespian debut, on Law and Order.
Law and Order.
There's no actual details as to which Law and Order, because they have like 30 of them.
Is he just gonna be playing a dead body? Is he gonna be like play himself when he got kneed in the head?
You know what had me laughing. What had me laughing was I was actually thinking he would be. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Bruno, one of the Sacha Baron Cohen movies.
Yeah.
But it had me thinking that he was going to be like in the jury, just with like some glasses on, his high top, the gold chain.
For those who don't know, Bruno was the disappointing follow-up, Sacha Baron Cohen follow-up to Borat. It had its moments, Bruno. It had its moments.
It did.
But it was no Borat.
I got what he was trying to do with the movie. It got rough to watch. We'll leave that there. So Aljamain Sterling, check him out on Law and Order at some point. There are probably more details to follow. When I find out, I'll be sure to bring it into the MMA sphere.
Dun dun dun.
Dun,
that was my Law and Order chime.
Next thing is Conor McGregor has taken his first steps. The wee little lad.
I appreciate the accent. Taking his first steps.
So it's basically just him kind of going back in rehab. Mark was specific on it was like an air treadmill kind of thing, just to make his walking experience easier going through the rehab. But listen, his leg was in half.
Oh my god, dude!
Walking
I can't. I mean,
leg was a balloon.
My foot was a balloon.
I have to admit, it is like surprising to hear this news that he's walking, because I feel like he snapped his shin bone like a week ago.
Well, I hope it doesn't end up like Chris Weidman, though, because Chris Weidman tried to pull the same shit, and then he was like, "Oh,
my
but
God.
there's still shards of bone floating in my leg."
Well, Connor got the metal inserts from the jump. Weidman's, they tried to like make his bone fuse again and shit, and it didn't work.
Oh my god!
Okay.
As
So
long
Connor,
as yeah, man.
Connor's was hopeless, I guess, and they were like, "We just got to go right to the metal."
I mean, worst case scenario would be what happened to Alex Smith. Did we touch on this like last week or something?
No, I don't think so.
What happened?
I mean, I know what you're talking about. It was friggin'
NFL quarterback Alex Smith, the guy who
it was so bad.
fractured his tib fib really badly, getting sacked, and in surgery when they were patching him up and putting a metal rod in. The worst thing that could have happened in that a bacterial infection got in there, and it became like flesh-eating bacteria.
Yeah.
Please don't tell me they cut off his leg.
Well,
No.
they almost cut off his leg, dude, because they had to keep like excavating flesh because the bacteria kept spreading. They had to keep excavating flesh, and they almost amputated his freaking leg, but they didn't.
It looked like a zombie leg.
Oh my god! And dude, you got to watch this. I think it was either a 30 for 30 or an E60 special. Recently, it came out like a few months ago, I think. It what's it called? It followed his whole journey.
I haven't watched that. I would like to watch that.
It's amazing, and it's also really gruesome. Just so you know.
But
like,
not only did he end up okay, Omar and Mike, and maybe you know this part since you watched it. He came back and he was the quarterback of the Redskins all year last year. I mean, not all year. He took over in I don't know what week, maybe week 5 or some shit.
So he almost lost his leg, came back, and continued to play professionally?
Yeah, he was the quarterback for like 12 weeks, and they made the playoffs, didn't
and they made the playoffs. He led them to the playoffs.
and then they lost. Well,
shit.
sorry, not the Redskins. Excuse me, the Washington football team.
Watch your
But
mouth.
yeah, and then he retired after the season. He was basically like, I just wanted to show myself I could do it, and now I'm out of here
Wow.
because he was older, kind of already anyway.
Unbelievable. But anyway, back to Connor. He's walking.
Yeah.
Good for him. Hopefully we'll see him in the octagon pretty soon.
Yeah, I think
taking on Paddy Pimblett.
Yeah.
I kind of had him back at like probably the end of the year, the beginning of next year. So we'll see if that holds.
Wait,
Yeah.
had who back?
Connor,
The end of this year?
Let's do it.
they do some crazy shit with stem cells, man.
Wait, really? God, I was assuming he was gone for a year.
We'll see.
Wow, I think he's, if we had to place bets right now, I think he fights earliest fall, like next fall, 2022 fall.
Yeah, we'll see. I think the next time he fights will be maybe not even in MMA. He might fight like Pacquiao or like a YouTuber or something. All right, Omar, what else you got, bud?
All right, man. So the last thing we have before we get into our fight announcements is Stipe. Stipe finally had his little baby boy.
Hey.
Mateo Cruz Miocic.
What? Really? That's like his name?
His name is Cruz?
Is his wife Latin?
Is someone Latin in that
I
family?
had so many questions. So many questions.
I mean, Mateo, too. I don't know. I can't think of what his wife is. I honestly can't remember what she looks like.
I know what she looks like, and I still can't tell you what she is.
I
Now,
think she looks
with,
like
with
a
that being said,
Caucasian.
Hispanics come in a variety of flavors and
Dude,
colors.
Apparently now on forums you can be non-white Hispanic, whatever that means. I can't keep up anymore.
Yeah, there's a variety of Hispanics, so it is very possible that his wife, while maybe doesn't look as Hispanic as one might expect a Hispanic to look, she could very well be very Hispanic.
Could be.
Her last name is Carney, so I feel like no.
I don't.
Pretty white.
But there it is. I mean, my mom called me Omar and my brother Ahmed, and there's no real logic behind any of that.
Your brother's name is Ahmed?
Oh yeah.
Wait.
And if I had to put money on it, no. Anything
the Nicaraguan nightmare.
I know. So I remember Nicaraguan. Aren't you something else as well?
I'm Nicaraguan. I'm Puerto Rican, and I'm Dominican.
All right, Puerto Rican. And
okay, right. I remember. Was the third one's Dominican?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah,
my
so
God.
literally zero anything that should have anything to do with the name Ahmed.
And to be fair, we could be Puerto Rican, Dominican, and Nicaraguan, and also Muslim, and for that to make sense.
Sure.
We're not.
Oh, fair, but I knew you weren't. Yeah.
We're not.
Yeah.
So it is totally possible that Miocic and his wife just decided, we like this name. This is what we're going to go with.
Oh, man.
No, to be fair, when I lived in New York, I feel like I met quite a few Latinos whose name was Omar.
Oh yeah, that's a normal.
Yeah, Omar is a common name. Yeah. If I had to put money on it, I'm pretty sure my brother is the only singular human being in the world who is named Ahmed, Hispanic, and not Muslim.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
He's got to be the only singular person.
Can he pass for being Arabic? Like, do you think people hear his name and just assume he's
dude,
Arabic?
I remember at work, bro, Omar, you said that you always got confused for being like Pakistani or Indian.
That's why I asked, because I feel like you could pass for it.
Yeah, my brother's actually a lot lighter skin than I am. So maybe not.
Yeah, it doesn't sound good.
He might like you could probably think
here.
Yeah,
you would probably think he was Turkish, maybe.
I love it. I love it.
Worst.
Our audience is getting to know us one episode at a time. Let's get back on track. Congrats to Stipe. Is this his first baby?
His second. That's his. This is his son. He had a daughter first.
Yeah.
All right,
dude. You haven't seen that daughter on all the UFC countdowns? She's all over.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
All right. What else you got, bud?
That will be it for the news, and let's get into some fight announcements. So the October 30th card is looking more and more fantastic. Makhachev versus Dos Santos is now official for October 30th.
Nice.
Which is a crazy fight. I'm not really sure how they landed on it, but I'm strangely okay with it. Volkov versus Tybura is also official for October 30th. So that is also a fantastic fight. Ankalaev versus Uzdemir is also official for October 30th.
Well, that was supposed to be this card.
Yeah, and they got pushed back to October 30th. But just that October 30th card is so fantastic right now. I'm very excited. And then a little birthday weekend magic for me, Nunez and Pena is December 11th. Yeah. I'm ready for that weekend.
Bye-bye, Juliana. Sorry. Bye-bye.
Oh, yeah.
She's gonna go away.
Probably will, but I'm still here for it. That'll still be a good time.
Nice.
And with that, I want to thank you guys again.
Awesome. Well,
to the MMA sphere.
Yes. Well, one last time, guys. Thank you for watching and thank you for listening. If you find us on YouTube, go ahead and like this video, share this video, and please subscribe to our channel. It'll help us out so much. And if you find us on any of your favorite podcast apps, go ahead and subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And one last time, find us on social media at @&new_MMA show. Go ahead and follow us and join the conversation. Let's put a bow on this one, boys. Episode 8 in the bag.
Boom.
Any parting shots?
Sure. Yeah, I just want to say, if you are looking to watch this UFC card this weekend, please be aware that it is a daytime card. It was originally supposed to be over in the UK, had to get moved back to Vegas because of COVID, but they've done a solid because there's a lot of British fighters on the card, and they're still airing it in the day here so that they can watch it over there. So it's, I think it's 1 o'clock start or 1:30 start, and then the main card's at 4.
All right.
Cool. That's all I got.
All right, boys.
For me, I want to appreciate you guys listening, and hopefully you guys are having as much fun listening as we've been having making this podcast, because this has been a good time. So
episode 8. We've been doing this now for 2 months.
Yeah, crazy.
Doesn't even feel like it. It's just this has just been what we do.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Later, guys. Peace.
Later.